Imagine you are standing in a field, not just any field but one stretching as far as the eye can see. Empty, silent. In the very center a giant stands guard, not of flesh and blood but something far more ancient and powerful. Time. The hourglass of time. It dwarfs everything around it. Its glass shimmers with an otherworldly glow. The top bulb holds an ocean of sand, each grain representing a moment in existence. It flows, ever so slowly, through the narrow neck of the hourglass, a constant reminder that time, though vast, is finite. The bottom bulb, a growing mountain of spent moments, serves as a stark reminder of time's passage. Each falling grain marks a life lived, a story told, a memory made. It is a testament to the relentless march of time. It is a silent sentinel, counting down to an unknown future. The sky above the hourglass shifts through a kaleidoscope of colors. Dawn is approaching, painting the horizon with hues of hope and uncertainty. A new day is about to begin, but for how long? The hourglass holds the answer, its secrets hidden within the flow of time itself. A lone figure emerges from the distance, dwarfed by the sheer scale of the hourglass. This is the caretaker, the one entrusted with the solemn duty of monitoring time's passage. Their steps are light, almost carefree, as they approach the hourglass. Every day, they perform the same ritual. The caretaker places a hand on the cool glass of the hourglass, feeling the faint vibrations of the sand as it flows within. It is a familiar sensation, a comforting constant in a world of change. For generations, their family has carried this burden and honor. They are the guardians of time. Their eyes, reflecting the golden light of the hourglass, hold a deep wisdom. They have spent their life studying the patterns of the sand, learning the language of time. But today something feels different, a subtle shift in the air, an unsettling stillness in the flow of sand. There is a faint tremor in their hand, a growing unease in their heart. Stepping back, the caretaker surveys the hourglass with a critical eye. The sun, now peeking over the horizon, casts long shadows across the plain. It illuminates the caretaker's face, revealing a deep line etched between their brows. The unease intensifies. Something is not right. A flock of birds bursts from the nearby tree line, their panicked cries shattering the morning calm. They wheel overhead, a swirling vortex of feathers and fear, before disappearing into the distance. The caretaker watches them go, their heart pounding in their chest. It is an ill omen, a sign that something is amiss. Looking down, the caretaker notices something else. A network of cracks spreading across the parched earth, like veins pulsing beneath the surface. The ground seems to tremble ever so slightly, a subtle but unmistakable tremor. The caretaker had dismissed the earlier signs, a flock of birds, a tremor in the earth. They were nothing, mere tricks of the wind and light, but now, doubt begins to creep in, whispering its insidious doubts. The caretaker kneels, tracing the cracks with a trembling finger. The air feels heavy, charged with an electric tension. Their breath catches in their throat. Suddenly, the caretaker understands. Time is running out. A surge of adrenaline jolts them into action. They scramble to their feet and break into a run towards the hourglass, their heart pounding against their ribs. Every instinct screams at them to flee, to escape the impending doom, but they are the caretaker, bound by duty and legacy to face whatever comes. The caretaker's peaceful morning had been shattered. The gentle routine of checking the hourglass had transformed into a desperate race against time itself. Their breath formed ragged clouds in the cool morning air, each inhale a painful reminder of the urgency of their task. The ground seemed to stretch endlessly before them, the once familiar path now a treacherous obstacle course. Their feet pounded against the dry earth, a steady rhythm of fear and determination. Each stride brought them closer to the towering hourglass, yet it felt as if the distance remained insurmountable. The world around them seemed to fade into a blur of colors and sounds, their senses laser-focused on the colossal structure ahead. The caretaker tripped on a loose rock, their arms flailing as they struggled to regain their balance. A sharp pain shot through their ankle, but they couldn't stop. Not now. They pushed themselves back up, ignoring the searing pain, their eyes fixed on the ever-nearing hourglass. As they ran, a chilling thought pierced through the caretaker's panic. What if they were too late? The thought clawed at their mind, threatening to consume them with terror. But they couldn't afford to give in to despair. They had to reach the hourglass, had to see for themselves if their worst fears were true. The closer the caretaker got, the more imposing the hourglass seemed to become. Its shadow stretched out before them, a vast, all-encompassing darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. The wind howled around the base of the structure, a mournful keening sound that sent shivers down their spine. Their gaze shot upwards towards the top bulb of the hourglass. It was then they realized the true horror of their situation. The once overflowing ocean of sand had dwindled to a mere trickle. The light that usually emanated from the flowing grains was faint, almost non-existent. A cold dread gripped their heart, squeezing the air from their lungs. Their legs burned with exhaustion, their lungs screamed for air, but still they pressed on. Reaching the base of the hourglass, they stumbled to a halt, their hand instinctively reaching out to touch the cool glass. It felt strangely still, devoid of the familiar vibrations of falling sand. Overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of what they were witnessing, the caretaker collapsed to their knees. The once comforting weight of their duty now felt like an unbearable burden. They were just one person, a tiny speck of existence dwarfed by the immensity of time. What could they possibly do to stop the inevitable? The caretaker forced themselves to look closer, their gaze drawn to the narrow neck of the hourglass where the sand flowed, or rather, where it should have been flowing. Only a few scattered particles remained, suspended between the top and bottom bulbs. They resembled dust motes caught in a sunbeam, their descent slow and agonizing. With a trembling hand, they reached out and touched the cool glass near the neck of the hourglass. Their finger left a smudge on the pristine surface, a jarring reminder of their own mortality against the backdrop of eternity. The particles continued their agonizingly slow descent, each one a heartbeat closer to the end. As the caretaker watched, a horrifying realization dawned. These weren't grains of sand at all. They were too small, too light, too lifeless. They were specks of dust, the remnants of what was once a vibrant flow of time. It was the dust of time itself, the final echoes of existence. The caretaker recoiled from the hourglass as if burned. The truth hit them with the force of a physical blow. Time wasn't just running out, it had already run out. The sand was gone, leaving behind only the dust of forgotten moments, the last vestiges of a universe on the brink of collapse. The weight of this revelation pressed down on the caretaker, threatening to crush them beneath its immensity. The world around them seemed to fade into insignificance. The only reality, the silent, looming presence of the hourglass and the agonizingly slow descent of the dust motes within. Their hands clenched into fists, their nails digging into their palms. They had to do something. Anything. But what? They were just the caretaker, a guardian of time, not a master of it. They couldn't stop the inevitable, could they? Their gaze fell upon a small red button on a console at the base of the hourglass. It was the only splash of color in a landscape that had been leached of all vibrancy, all hope. The caretaker knew what it was, of course. They had spent their life preparing for this moment, dreading it yet knowing it would come eventually. This button was their final duty, their last act as caretaker. It was time to inform heaven that time itself had run out. The caretaker's breath hitched. They watched, transfixed, as the final particles of dust drifted down the hourglass. The silence was deafening, the world held its breath, bracing for impact. Their trembling hand reached for the familiar chain of a necklace. A small silver key hung at its end. Passed down through generations, it was the only thing that could unlock the console. Now, it was their turn. The lock on the console was a simple mechanism, yet it felt impossibly heavy beneath their touch. The caretaker's hand trembled as they inserted the key, the cold metal sending a jolt of fear through their body. The weight of their duty, the knowledge that their next action would have irreversible consequences, threatened to crush them. But they couldn't hesitate. Time was running out. With a deep breath, they turned the key. The lock clicked open, the sound unnaturally loud in the oppressive silence. It was a small sound, almost insignificant, yet it seemed to reverberate through the very air, a harbinger of change, of endings. The caretaker carefully removed the key, their fingers lingering on the cold metal for a moment before they let it fall back against their chest. Then, with a slowness that belied the urgency of their situation, they lifted the plastic cover that protected the red button. It was a simple act, yet it felt weighted with significance. The button, now exposed, seemed to pulsate with a faint inner light. It was a vibrant red, a stark contrast to the muted colors of the surrounding landscape. It was a beacon, a warning, and a promise all rolled into one, a promise of an end to time, an end to everything. The red button stared back at the caretaker, a malevolent eye in the heart of the console. They hovered their hand above it, their fingers splayed, their muscles tensed. It was as if the button itself held some unseen power. Their eyes darted back and forth between the button and the hourglass. The last particles of dust were almost gone. The caretaker knew that every second they hesitated brought the inevitable closer. A bead of sweat trickled down their temple. Fear warred with duty. And yet, beneath it all, there was a strange sense of awe. They were about to play a pivotal role in the fate of the universe. Closing their eyes, the caretaker took a deep breath. They could feel the weight of the world on their shoulders. Opening their eyes, they stared at the red button. Their fingertip brushed against its surface, a jolt of energy seeming to pass between them. Inside the hourglass, the very last particle of dust slipped through the narrow neck, disappearing into the bottom bulb. The light flickered and died. An oppressive silence descended upon the plane. They slammed their hand down on the red button, but nothing happened. No lights flickered to life. Had they failed in their duty? They didn't know. High above the earth, beyond time, lay a realm of unimaginable beauty and serenity. But today, an unsettling silence gripped heaven. Angels, frozen mid-song, exchanged bewildered glances. News of the caretaker's action, signaling the end of time, reverberated through the celestial ranks. The throne room, usually a place of warmth, now crackled with tension. Something momentous was about to occur, shaking heaven and earth. Among younger angels, fear took hold. The sudden halt to time filled them with primal dread. The celestial records, once vibrant, lay blank, offering no answers. Down on Earth, chaos reigned. Cities crumbled under a sky ablaze with unnatural light. The ground rippled and buckled like waves on a stormy sea. The future collapsed into a single terrifying present. The skies swirled with angry colors, reflecting turmoil below. Time became fluid, unpredictable. Communication networks crumbled, screens flickered with static. The planet was enveloped in a maelstrom of storms and earthquakes. The chaos engulfing Earth was spiritual. Across the globe, people abandoned their faith. Empty churches stood like silent sentinels, their altars gathering dust. From space, a fleet of silver ships descended. The beings, tall and slender, moved with ethereal grace. They promised to restore order and heal the planet. Humanity reached out to these enigmatic visitors, desperate for hope. The Watchers quickly established themselves as saviors. Their leader spoke of a shared destiny for humanity, calling himself the Messiah. Millions flocked to hear him, hungry for hope. But beneath this hope, a darker truth lurked. The Watchers offered a gift, a small device called the Mark. Millions lined up to receive it, seeing it as salvation. The Mark was a symbol of allegiance, subtly exerting influence. It contained the DNA of the Watchers, and all one need do for immortality is to press their hand or forehead against to receive their mark. The protagonist felt something off in the Watchers' message. They reached for a worn Bible, finding ancient warnings. The words hit them like a blow, revealing the Watchers' deception. They knew these beings were not what they seemed. Word spread of two individuals challenging the Watchers. The witnesses, Enoch and Elijah, spoke of the one true God. The Watchers tried to silence them, but their efforts proved futile. Miracles manifested through the witnesses, a testament to true faith. The rapture. The protagonist gathered their family close, heeding the witnesses' warnings. They rejected the Watchers' false promises. As the world descended into chaos, peace settled over them. Then, a blinding light engulfed their home. They felt weightless, their bodies dissolving. Drawn upwards, their souls embarked on a journey. Across the globe, millions experienced the same phenomenon. The rapture had begun. Standing with Christ. The protagonists found themselves standing among a multitude of souls, their forms radiant and ethereal, bathed in the warm glow of an unseen light. A sense of overwhelming love washed over them, a love so pure, so profound, that it defied human comprehension. And then, through the light, a figure emerged. It was Jesus, the Son of God, his face both familiar and awe-inspiring. His eyes, filled with a depth of love and compassion, met the protagonist's gaze, and in that instant, they understood. They were home, they were safe, they had made it. Below on the ravaged earth, the Watchers continued their reign, their deception now complete. But for those who had chosen to stand with Christ, the end of time was not an ending but a beginning. A new heaven and a new earth awaited, a realm of eternal peace and joy, where sorrow and suffering were no more. A time for reflection. The end of time. It's a concept that has captivated and terrified mankind for millennia. The stories we tell, the beliefs we hold, all point towards a moment when the clock stops ticking. But what if the end of time isn't just some distant prophecy? What if it's a choice, a crossroads where we're forced to confront who we are and what we believe? The story we've just shared is a fictional exploration of this very question. It's a story of faith and doubt, of hope and despair, of the seductive allure of false promises, and the enduring power of truth. It's a story that challenges us to look beyond the superficial, to question the narratives we're being fed, and to seek out the deeper meaning behind the chaos of our world. The end of time, as depicted in our story, isn't just about the physical destruction of our planet. It's about the disintegration of our values, the erosion of our faith, the fragmentation of our very souls. It's about the choices we make, both individually and collectively, and the consequences that ripple out from those choices. But amidst the darkness, there is always hope. The story of the protagonist and their family is a testament to the enduring power of faith, the unwavering belief in a love that transcends the boundaries of time and space. It's a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable chaos and fear, we are not alone. Embrace the truth. The end of time is not an end but a beginning. It's a transition to a realm of infinite possibility. The path is not without challenges. We will face trials and temptations, confront our deepest fears. The choice is always ours. Embrace false promises or seek truth. Seek truth beyond the veil. We have each other, and the wisdom of the ages, the Creator's unwavering love. The end is a new beginning. Something extraordinary awaits. Embrace the truth within. Choose wisely.